Why early access will benefit Coral Island. Hey everyone, thank you for watching another one of my videos. I've been thinking a lot about the early access for Coral Island, and it made me think of all the pros and cons for releasing your game at an early access stage. I think we all see a lot more games releasing their game at an early access stage, or they release a demo and people would play those and basically help out fixing the game in return. I think it actually became more popular recently, like the past few years. I remember demos being a thing for a while, but releasing a game in its not finished stage and then charging money for it was probably an insane idea a while back. However, this is more and more common than releasing a full-fledged game now. There's not a lot of downsides for releasing a game in an early access stage. There's actually a ton of games that never did an early access stage. There's so many bugs, and in turn, it just causes unnecessary bad press that could have been avoided. The most notable game I can think of, and probably one game that most of you have heard, is Cyberpunk 2077. This game had unimaginable and also unattainable hype ever since the first teaser in 2013. Cyberpunk released in December of 2020, and there was an instant backlash about a ton of things. There was a lot of bugs, for example, and optimization issues with the consoles especially. PlayStation actually offered refunds for the game for the PS4. It also seemed like Cyberpunk promised so much during the marketing period, and when it came to the release, it just didn't meet expectations. It took Cyberpunk 2 whole years to get the game to the state that is actually acceptable and fun. They took 2 years to basically fix bugs, and no, there wasn't any big updates during those 2 years. They even scrapped the multiplayer for the game. Now, I will say, I don't think early access is the answer necessarily for this game, because most single-player AAA games don't have a beta or alpha. But for a game of this scale, maybe it would have been a good idea to have an early access stage or some sort of beta period where you could play the first couple hours of the game, and maybe people could have found enough bugs or found enough changes that could have made the game better, and it would have just made the release a lot smoother. Now, the good thing is that Coral Island is already one step ahead of other games with releasing an early access version. We have seen how important the alpha has been over the last year for the progression of the game. The people that got to play the closed alpha got to experience the changes over time and see the game evolve tremendously. I think the Coral Island devs could tell you themselves, but I'm sure hundreds and hundreds of things got changed during that year because of the feedback. There's so much good that comes when listening to the community. I bet that if Coral Island never released an alpha or an early access, then the game would not have made as much progress as it has now. I'm not saying I don't think the developers don't have what it takes, but I think the community has a lot of amazing ideas, some small, but some that can change the landscape of the game for the better. I also do want to go into what Coral Island should do in order to make sure the early access is as successful as possible. They need to have frequent updates to the game. They did a decent job with this, with releasing updates every 2 months during the alpha, but I think they need to make it more frequent than that, especially if they want us to believe that the game will be fully released next year. They said that as we get closer to full release, the early access will be closer and closer to its final stage. I believe that on October 11th, we're going to get a lot of content, but not as much as we think. I hope I'm wrong on that, but frequent updates will also keep the players more engaged, and depending on the updates, it will introduce more people into the game for the first time. So ideally, I would want updates weekly or bi-weekly, big or small, it doesn't matter. Just some sort of updates to add small things to the game to keep the players engaged. There could be a ton of people that get burnt out from the game from the first week or even month, but you want to keep those people engaged. You don't want them to forget about the game in 11 months when the game fully releases. So I think frequent updates will be critical so those players can just have fun, have new stuff to do. I hope they also stay away from microtransactions completely during the early access and hopefully after full release. Microtransactions are super tempting for any studio to implement into their games, but I think it would be a bad look for Coral Island during the early access stage. I'm actually not against microtransactions in games, as long as it's only cosmetic or DLC that adds a lot of content to the game. Let's say Coral Island decided after full release that they wanted to have a cosmetic shop that you can only purchase with real money. I wouldn't be happy about that, but at least it doesn't affect the gameplay, which is really important. One game that recently released is Disney Dreamlight Valley, and I know a ton of people are enjoying it, It's $30 currently, but will be free to play in 2023. By the looks of it, it looks like the only thing you can purchase with real money is cosmetic stuff. I don't believe any levels are locked behind a paywall or any boosts. This game is a little different since it's going to be free to play, but so many games are starting to do this that I won't be surprised when games add a cosmetic shop. I don't have any insider info or anything like that about Coral Island and cosmetic shops or Battle Pass or DLC or anything like that. I think they are maybe gonna plan to add some sort of DLC after full release, which I think is a great idea as long as they add a lot of content to it. It gives you a way to support the developers again and them be able to support you as well. Now the good thing is Coral Island is doing an early access. They're also really good at communication, and I don't believe they're going to be greedy with microtransactions or anything like that. And with frequent updates, I think they'll greatly benefit from the early access. They're gonna have a lot more people playing the early access than they did the alpha. And the last thing you want to do is release an update every 2 months and lose a bunch of the audience. Will that audience come back out when the update comes back, like the second update or the third update comes back? Maybe, but I don't think everybody will. So I think frequent content is really important. That might be the most important thing that they should do during the game. Updates to the game, updates to characters, just small things, big things, anything. And I have good faith that they will do it. They're going to do it right. They're going to communicate with everybody. They're going to be really transparent about the changes they do. If people don't like some changes, I believe they'll revert those changes. And I think this will skyrocket Coral Island's popularity, especially because Coral Island is available on Game Pass, which will introduce the game to basically 30 million people. Now there's only 36,000 backers of the game, so just imagine if a little bit of those people try out the early access. I mean, it's gonna blow up, and then when the full game releases, I'm sure people are gonna be paying for that. Now let me know what you think about this video, about the topic. Do you think Coral Island is gonna benefit from going through the early access stage, or do you think they should have held out till full release or kept the closed alpha? Do you think it's maybe a mistake introducing the early access to the public in its not fully finished stage? Do you think it'll lose some people when the full game releases because they kind of like already played the game in like the first month or two, even though there's like new updates? Let me know what you think about that. I'm really interested to see what you guys think. I know this video is all over the place, and I'm sorry about that. I wanted to get my thoughts about the early access, and I wasn't sure the best way to title the video or have the topics written out, so I kind of just talked about a bunch of things. It's more of a commentary video, but I appreciate you guys for sticking out, and I'll see you on the next one.